Has an interesting article about the remaking of Fernando Mendoza and Kurt Signetti, finding him, thinking he had a lot of promise. We didn't know. I mean, I'd watched him play a couple times at Cal. I didn't think he was going to go 16-0 and win a national championship and beat Ohio State and Miami. So, and I've said before, I'm a huge believer in Fernando Mendoza. But if you were telling me, Colin, you have to bet your 401k on he's going to be fine and make the Raiders respectable, or he's going a bunch of playoff games, I would take the latter. Okay. So when's the last college quarterback that went to a bottom 5 NFL franchise and consistently won? Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud. And Joe Burrow has not made the playoffs for 3 straight years, right? They can't protect him. Once he got paid, they can't protect him and elevate the roster. And Burrow is a much higher graded prospect than Fernando Mendoza was. So Burrow got to a Super Bowl, AFC championship, took a really bad franchise there, but yet since then, he can't even make the playoffs. Can't make the playoffs. Andrew Luck, again, higher prospect than Fernando Mendoza. 11-5, 11-5, 11-5. But his career, he couldn't beat the good teams, and eventually he leaves early. So the Bengals have struggled to protect Joe Burrow and elevate the roster once they pay him. And Andrew Luck, they couldn't protect him. And then there's C.J. Stroud, who appears to have regressed. So ask yourself, who are the young quarterbacks that come into this league and win really quickly? See if you notice anything. Brock Purdy, Goff, Drake May, Caleb, Mahomes, Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson. Look at their coaches. And by the way, John Harbaugh with Lamar, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Kyle Shanahan, Goff in year 2 pops with McVay, May pops in year 2 with Vrabel, Caleb pops in year 2 with Caleb, with Ben Johnson. So, I mean, again, is Clint Kubiak a great coach? Could be. And I love Fernando Mendoza. But the truth is, when you read this article, you find the college quarterback, there's like a linear. It's like the ones that work by year 2, it's the coach. Like the coach is a huge part of it. So it really boils down to, is Clint Kubiak the guy?
Of course, the significance of effective coaching in the NFL cannot be overstated. The current discourse surrounding this topic feels rather scattered and inconsistent. For one thing, the Houston Texans are currently failing to provide adequate protection for C.J. Stroud, which is a separate but related issue. I'm also puzzled as to why someone would use the offensive line as a primary excuse. Joe Burrow, for example, has dealt with his fair share of significant injuries, which is a major contributing factor to the Bengals' recent playoff absences. Furthermore, Cincinnati isn't demonstrating a genuine commitment to structural or operational changes. In contrast, the Las Vegas Raiders have shown a clear willingness to make difficult but necessary adjustments, both in hiring and firing personnel. They are actively trying to improve their situation. They've taken substantial high-profile risks on head coaches in the past. While those gambles, whether we're discussing John Gruden or Josh McDaniels, didn't pan out, the hires themselves weren't inherently illogical. At the time, they were considered shrewd moves. Much like the current decision to bring in Clint Kubiak is widely viewed as a smart and sensible choice. If we want to have a serious conversation about what it takes to build a consistent winner, we have plenty of examples. Caleb Williams was drafted by a team that finished at the bottom of the league. We could continue listing examples almost endlessly. Consider Jared Goff. He was with a Los Angeles Rams team that was struggling significantly. His performance dipped to the point where people began questioning if he was a draft bust. Then, the organization made a pivotal change. They parted ways with Jeff Fisher and brought in Sean McVay. The transformation was immediate and profound. So, frankly, I believe we might be evaluating these situations through an outdated perspective. The fundamental truth is that you need an exceptional head coach. You need strong leadership, and your organization needs to function with a reasonable level of competence, right? Does a franchise have to be a perfectly oiled machine, operating with ruthless efficiency and consistently winning every single transaction? Obviously, that's the ultimate goal and the ideal scenario. But is that level of perfection a strict prerequisite for success? Not necessarily. What is non-negotiable, however, is the ability to consistently make intelligent, well-reasoned decisions. Let's be perfectly clear on that point. I highlighted this in a previous discussion because Colin was praising the Seattle Seahawks for being a masterfully run organization. The reality was that the Seahawks general manager initially intended to retain both Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. That was the core plan. When that initial plan fell through, they pivoted and made a series of smart, subsequent choices. They navigated the situation and ultimately made the right calls. That's the key distinction. It's not about having a flawless initial concept every single time. It's about the capability to successfully navigate unforeseen circumstances and make sound decisions as events unfold, adapting to the unexpected twists and turns. This is precisely why I've previously expressed support for the Raiders' direction. Selecting Shedeur Sanders and hiring Clint Kubiak is a logical combination. It just makes sense. Even if this particular pairing ultimately doesn't lead to a championship, it was still the correct, most rational decision to make at this juncture. It's a concrete, decisive move, and it represents the best available option. When you hear people discuss overcoming regret or past mistakes, the common wisdom is that you must make the optimal choice with the information you have at that specific moment. Whenever a decision later proves to be an error, it's often because you were making the best possible call you could, given the circumstances and data available to you then. That's precisely the position the Raiders are in now, and that's why I endorse their approach. Now, of course, the inevitable question arises: just how effective of a head coach will Clint Kubiak be? Is he a guaranteed home run hire destined to become the next Sean McVay or Ben Johnson? Absolutely not. There are no guarantees in this league. However, does he possess the potential for significant success? I believe so. Provided he doesn't fail catastrophically in the fundamental duties of being a head coach, moving beyond just his role as an offensive mind to manage the entire team effectively, there is ample opportunity for him to thrive. Plenty of room for success. We saw a similar dynamic with Mike McDaniel in Miami. When the roster was sufficiently talented and Tua Tagovailoa was healthy, McDaniel's offense was electric. They were in a strong position to make the playoffs and even compete for wins once they got there, despite questions about his overall head coaching prowess. Of course, when you add complex variables like Tua's health concerns and manage strong personalities such as Tyreek Hill, the situation becomes more complicated. This is where Shedeur Sanders becomes a positive factor. His presence and unique experience bring a valuable dynamic to the Raiders' situation. So, as long as your head coach meets a basic standard of competence, he can run efficient practices, lead productive meetings, maintain team organization, and assemble a capable staff, there's a strong foundation. As long as you're at least adequate in those fundamental areas, I am confident that Clint Kubiak can achieve a great deal of success with Sanders and this Raiders roster. Furthermore, there are enough capable individuals currently within the Raiders organization that I genuinely believe they are trending in a positive direction and will be able to effectively manage the inevitable challenges that arise. The Cincinnati Bengals, by stark contrast, simply do not have that same organizational stability and foresight. Year after year, their shortcomings in this area have been painfully evident. So, no, I don't subscribe to the narrative that the Raiders are a hopelessly mismanaged franchise. I am fully aware that they haven't experienced sustained success for a very long time. I acknowledge that. But I also believe they've frequently been on the wrong side of some truly unfortunate circumstances. Honestly, I firmly believe that. Think about it for a moment. Imagine if Antonio Brown hadn't unraveled the way he did. If he had remained stable and stayed with the team alongside John Gruden and Derek Carr, that could have been something special. That could have been a genuinely dominant combination. Gruden's hiring, for instance, was an ambitious swing for the fences. He had been out of coaching for years. They gave him an enormous contract, but the point is they were willing to invest heavily and take a major risk. Similarly, the decision to hire Josh McDaniels wasn't an indefensible bet. It was a calculated gamble based on his offensive pedigree. It wasn't the worst swing to take. The Antonio Pierce hire was the misstep. That was the worst gamble of the bunch. And what did the organization do? They recognized the mistake and moved on from it immediately. Their subsequent actions spoke volumes. They decided to bring in a seasoned veteran coach with a proven track record of success over the past decade in Pete Carroll, along with a quarterback in Geno Smith, who has demonstrated he can win. When that particular experiment didn't yield immediate results, they pivoted again. They are not stubbornly planting their feet and refusing to adapt. They aren't clinging to a failing plan for the sake of consistency. That willingness to course correct is something you have to respect. It is a clear indicator of an organization striving to make intelligent, pragmatic decisions. That is precisely what it signifies. And I am convinced that the moment they successfully pair the right head coach with the right quarterback, a duo they may have found in Kubiak and Sanders, they will continue to make increasingly shrewd choices and construct a substantially more competitive team as time goes on. When those pieces finally click into place, I anticipate a period of considerable success. But of course, these are merely my own opinions. I'm genuinely interested in hearing your perspectives. What is your assessment of the Las Vegas Raiders' current trajectory? What are your thoughts on the potential pitfalls? The concern that Kubiak might not be an effective head coach, but Sanders is a legitimate talent. Or the opposite scenario, that Sanders might struggle while Kubiak proves to be a capable leader. Or perhaps the fear that both are talented, but the organization will fail to build a competent offensive line or a strong enough supporting cast around them. Consider all the possibilities. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I make a point of reading every single response. So, whether you're in agreement with my take or you think I'm completely off base, either way, let's ignite some discussion. Let's engage in some healthy debate, but most importantly, let's keep it enjoyable. And please, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. We are cultivating an incredible community here, and I would genuinely love for you to be a part of it. My goal is to build something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we're all truly excited to be involved in. I believe we are well on our way to achieving that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it significantly helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much for your support.